People often say that patience is the hidden engine behind every great achievement. Napoleon Hill wrote that a calm and deliberate mind opens doors that anger keeps shut. Think about leaders like Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, or Jeff Bezos. They faced storms, criticism, yet they moved forward not with rage, but with clarity. But if we already know patience is powerful, why do so many of us still make decisions we later regret? Why do we act in the heat of the moment, only to wish we had paused for just one thoughtful second? Stay with me, because today's story reveals a surprising truth about patience, wisdom, and the quiet strength that solves even the most impossible problems. And along the way, you'll hear vivid new vocabulary woven naturally into the tale, words like startled, vibrant, and generously making your English learning smooth and enjoyable. Let's begin. Once, in a distant and vibrant kingdom, there lived a young king named David. At just 25, he inherited the throne after his father's passing. Though he was strong, intelligent, and ambitious, David still felt startled by the weight of ruling a nation. Thankfully, he wasn't alone. Guiding him from childhood was Edward, a wise teacher who had shaped David's thinking with lessons about kindness, patience, and wisdom. After the king's father passed away, Edward became David's chief minister and closest counselor. For a while, everything in the kingdom flourished, but one year, a severe food crisis struck. The crops failed, the markets emptied, and people grew anxious. The disaster happened because of a mistake in Edward's weather forecast, an honest error, yet a costly one. Overwhelmed with pressure, David allowed anger to cloud his judgment. Without pausing to think, he ordered his mentor to leave the kingdom forever. "Go," he said sharply, regretting the words even as they escaped his tongue. But Edward bowed quietly and left with a calm dignity that made the palace feel suddenly empty. Far from the kingdom, Edward settled in a peaceful village. Despite having wealth, he chose a humble life as a farmer. He worked the soil, shared stories, listened generously to villagers' problems, and soon became a trusted source of guidance. People admired how calmly he handled every challenge. Back in the kingdom, David struggled. Each new decision felt heavier than the last. He missed Edward's thoughtful voice, his steady presence, his wise reminders to breathe before reacting. The feeling of regret grew stronger each day, gnawing at him like an unanswered question. Finally, David resolved to bring Edward back. He sent soldiers across the kingdom, but no one knew where the wise minister had gone. Weeks passed. Hope faded. Then David remembered something Edward once taught him. Wisdom leaves a trail, if you know how to look for it. Inspired, the king created an unusual test. He sent a clay jar and a letter to every village leader. The letter read, "Return this jar filled with wisdom within 1 month. If you cannot, fill it with precious jewels instead." When the jar reached Edward's village, the leader was confused. How can wisdom be placed inside a jar? Mother. Fear spread among the villagers. They couldn't afford jewels, and failure meant punishment. So they rushed to Edward, pleading, "Please help us. You are the only one who can solve this." Edward listened calmly. After a long pause, he said, "Bring me the jar. I will fill it with wisdom." The villagers exchanged hopeful, puzzled looks. "What will you do?" the leader asked. Edward smiled softly. "I'm not sure yet, but with time, the answer will come." True to his nature, he sat in quiet. Then, while tending his farm, he noticed a thin pumpkin vine curling across the soil. Suddenly, an idea sparked. Simple, brilliant, elegant. Gently, he placed a tiny pumpkin inside the jar, without cutting it off the vine. Each day he watered it, nurturing it patiently. Slowly, the pumpkin grew, expanding until it filled the entire jar, unable to be removed. When the month ended, Edward sent the jar back. In the royal hall, David lifted the jar and stared in amazement. Inside was a fully grown pumpkin, perfectly shaped by the jar around it. "This," he whispered, "is the work of a wise and patient mind." And in that moment, David knew exactly who had solved his challenge. Without hesitation, he set out to find Edward not as a king demanding obedience, But as a student ready to apologize, this story teaches us something profound. Decisions made in anger often lead to regret, but decisions shaped through patience lead to wisdom. A peaceful mind sees possibilities that an angry mind ignores. Calm thinking transforms obstacles into openings, and sometimes the smartest solution appears not through force, but through quiet observation, just like the pumpkin that grew slowly, yet perfectly, over time. So the next time frustration rises and you feel tempted to react instantly, pause, breathe. Let patience guide you. You may discover a solution far more creative than you imagined. If this story inspired you or helped you learn new words, let me know in the comments what lesson stood out to you the most. Like the video, share it with someone who needs encouragement today. And don't forget to subscribe for more motivating stories every week. Keep learning, keep growing, and remember, wisdom begins with patience.